But truly, let us, for his visit here in Tajikistan, give a warm-hearted welcome as he is visiting this nation as part of the 180-nation tour. Please welcome Dr. Hyunjin Moon.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. It's a very warm day today, is it not? Although it's a very warm day, I'd really urge you to listen to this message intently, because it encapsulates the totality of my father's more than 80 years ministry in his efforts to establish peace on this earth. The themes in this message is very universal, and if you really truly try to understand its content, it will really move you and touch you. It is a long speech, but I urge you to bear with me and to really listen intently. So with that said, I'd like to begin. Distinguished world leaders, ambassadors for peace, and blessed family members who have come from all parts of the world in hopes of bringing about the realization of world peace and building the ideal hometown in heaven and on earth. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all of you for coming together in the midst of your busy schedules to take part in this rally to expand and elevate the family party for cosmic peace and unification to a global level, so that it may be reborn as the Chunilguk House for Peace and Unification, to make the Universal Peace Federation a model UN-type organization, and to make Chunilguk the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world through the concerted efforts of all the nations of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin the 21st century, we find ourselves at a truly historic turning point. We are at a point of decision. Can everlasting world peace take root, or are we doomed to repeat the 20th century's dark and oppressive history of war and conflict? The 20th century was a period of ceaseless struggle, including wars for colonial dominion, the First and Second World Wars, the Korean War, and the Cold War. Living through this era, I dedicated my life entirely to the accomplishment of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world. I have always prayed sincerely that the United Nations, founded after the Second World War, would be an institution of peace, and that it would uphold God's will for the realization of eternal world peace. The United Nations has made important contributions for peace. Nevertheless, at its 60th anniversary last year, the United Nations has made important contributions for peace. Nevertheless, at its 60th anniversary last year, there was a broad consensus, both inside and outside the organization, that the UN had yet to discover the way to fulfill its founding purposes. The number of member states approaches 200, but the offices of these states do nothing more than represent and even insist upon their narrow self-interest. They seem inherently unable to resolve conflicts and achieve peace. For these reasons, I would like to once more declare today before all humanity the message I gave throughout the Universal Peace Federation inaugural tour, which was launched last year on September 12th in New York and took me to 120 nations around the world. It was entitled, God's Ideal Family and the Kingdom of the Peaceful, Ideal World. The Universal Peace Federation's mission is to renew the existing United Nations, a Kane-type UN, and provide a new level of leadership as an Able-type UN. It will unite heaven and earth and form the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world. This message should be engraved in the hearts of humankind. It is heaven's special blessing in this age after the coming of heaven. It is also a warning to us that we should take to heart and put into action. Respected world leaders, what do you think is God's ultimate purpose for creating human beings? Simply put, it is to experience joy through relating with ideal families filled with true love. What does an ideal family look like? First, each person in the family is an owner of true love. When God first created human beings, He made Adam representing all men and Eve representing all women, with the intention that they become owners of true love. The quickest way for them to cultivate a character of true love was to secure a parent-child relationship with God, whereby they could live in attendance to God as their father. They were to have followed the path of living as one family with God. I invite you now to to enter into a mystical state and prayerfully ask God, what is the center of the universe? The answer you will hear without doubt will be the parent-child relationship. Nothing is more important or more precious than the relationship between a parent and child. This is because it defines the fundamental relationship that the Creator God and human beings should have had. Then what defines the parent-child relationship? Three things: love, life, and lineage. The first is love. We can love with true love because God, our true parent, first loved us with true love. God created human beings out of His absolute love to be His partners in love. This relationship forms an axis of love, linking God the Father with human beings as His sons and daughters. Is there anything higher or more precious than to be a son or daughter of God? If anything were higher, then surely human beings would aspire to attain it. But there is nothing higher. Do you think that when the omniscient and omnipotent God created Adam and Eve, He secretly reserved the highest position for Himself and made Adam and Eve to be only second best? We cannot imagine that God would do such a thing to His own children, to His partners who share absolute love with Him. As our eternal true parent, God invested Himself 100% in the creation of human beings and endowed us with the right to have equal status with Him, to participate in His work as equals, to live with Him, and to inherit from Him. God bestowed upon human beings all of His attributes. Though God is the absolute being, He cannot be happy alone. Adjectives such as good and happy cannot apply to any being that lives in isolation. They apply only when there is a robust mutual relationship. Imagine for a moment a professional singer who finds herself exiled to an uninhabited island. She may sing at the top of her lungs, but with no one to listen to her, will it bring her happiness? In the same way, even the self-existent God absolutely needs a partner to share love with in order to experience joy and to be happy. Next is life. How shall we live to become God's partner and return joy to Him? In other words, how shall we live to become children of God, people whom God delights to call my son or my daughter, because He sees in us a divinity equal to His? How can we become God's partners in completing the work of creation, partners who will inherit the entire creation? I answer, we should emulate the ideal that God set up at the beginning of His creative acts. In the beginning of creation, God acted upon the principle of living for the sake of others. In other words, everything that He did was for the sake of His creations, whom He hoped would develop into His partners of true love. The practice of true love, then, is the nucleus behind God's creative activity. Therefore, to become God's children, our first responsibility is to resemble Him. We need to embody true love. The way to embody true love begins by living as a filial child, then a patriot, a saint, and finally a divine son and daughter of God. At that stage, we can experience the innermost emotions of God's heart and resolve the grief that He has experienced for tens of thousands of years, ever since the fall of Adam and Eve. God is almighty. It was not due to any shortcoming or lack of ability that He has been imprisoned in great pain and has endured immense suffering behind the scenes of history. Rather, there were provisions in the principle of restoration which He was not free to disclose, that called upon Him to wait with forbearance until Adam and Eve's position, lost at the human fall, were restored with the appearance of the perfected second Adam. Although God is all-powerful, He will not set aside the eternal laws and principles that He Himself established. Do you know what has pained God's heart most, causing Him the greatest grief over the long history since the fall of Adam and Eve? God lost His lineage. And with the loss of His lineage, He lost His right of ownership. Let me talk about lineage for a moment. Lineage is more important than life and more important than love. Life and love come together to create lineage. Lineage cannot be established if either life nor love is missing. Therefore, among the three qualities that define the parent-child relationship, love, life, and lineage, lineage is the fruit. God's lineage contains the seed of true love. God's lineage provides the context and environment for a true life. Hence, for us to become the ideal people envisioned by God, that is, people of ideal character, and to create ideal families, we first need to be linked to His lineage. To take it a step further, only when we are linked to God's lineage is it possible to create God's homeland, the ideal nation. Only when we are linked to God's lineage is it possible to establish the kingdom of a peaceful, ideal world. Please inscribe the importance of lineage in your hearts. I cannot emphasize this enough. Without lineage, neither life nor love can endure. You strive to set a good tradition, but it will endure only through your lineage. Lineage is the bridge allowing the parent spirit to carry on through subsequent generations. In other words, lineage is the first and final condition necessary for parents to harvest the fruits of their love, the fruits of their life, and the fruits of their joy. We need to know this with certainty. Yet when Adam and Eve fell, this lineage, more precious than life itself, was lost. The fruits of true life and true love never matured. They became the fruits of Satan, lacking any relationship with heaven. From them descended the 6 billion people now covering the earth. God intended for the seeds he planted in the springtime of the Garden of Eden to grow into a bountiful crop that he could harvest in the autumn. The ideal of God's creation was to raise Adam and Eve, his son and daughter, to the point where they would blossom in true love, flourish with true life, and bear fruit with true lineage. God desired to harvest owners and families of eternal life, eternal love, and eternal lineage, and to harvest his kingdom of a peaceful, ideal world as their eternal homeland. Instead, false love, false life, and false lineage infested the earth. God's love, life, and lineage fell into the hands of the adulterer Satan, the enemy of love. Heaven and earth were suffocated and transformed into hell. The world became a wretched place, far from God's presence. Yet humanity to this day lives in ignorance of this. People are deluded into believing that the lineage of the enemy is a lifeline upon which the world depends. This is the wretched truth about humanity descended from the fall. That is why we refer to this world as a hell on earth. God naturally views humanity's tragic situation with a heart full of pain. After creating Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, God intended to wed them with his holy blessing and bequeath unto them heaven's right of ownership. God wanted Adam and Eve to inherit from him the ownership of the entire universe. Because of the fall, however, all this came under Satan's control. God is like a father who worked and sweated his entire life to accumulate assets for his children, only to have a thief steal everything in one night. Who can comprehend the sorrowful, painful heart of God? God lost his lineage, lost his children, and was forced to hand over the ownership of the nations and the world to Satan. There was only one way to recover this lineage and ownership. This was the path to win the natural subjugation of Satan himself, to have Satan surrender voluntarily. What is the secret to accomplish this? It is only by the power of true love. When we love our enemies more than we love even our own children. Was there ever a time when God could rejoice with humanity as their true father and true mother, enjoying the natural bonds of parent and child? Has God enjoyed even a year of comfort with his children, knowing that what he had created was good? The answer is no. God has not enjoyed it even for 1 hour. And has anyone been able to comfort God in this pain? Once again, the answer is no, because no one has known the reason for the unbridgeable gap that has separated God from humanity for tens of thousands of years. No one has known why God and humanity are in such a tragic circumstance. The biblical account of Cain and Abel reveals the beginnings of human conflict right in Adam's family. It provides the archetype for humankind's unending history of struggle, war, and conflict. We are conflicted on many levels, beginning with the war between body and mind within each individual and extending to wars between nations and even to the global conflict between materialism and theism. Extreme selfish individualism threatens our prosperity even today. We deem young people to be the hope of humanity, holding the promise of the future, but drugs and free sex enslave them. Advanced countries seem to believe that material goods are all that matter. They recognize only their own interests while ignoring the misery of tens of thousands who die of starvation every day. Who can untie this ancient knot of Cain and Abel? It has been tightened for thousands of years and grows ever more tangled. Do you believe the United Nations can do it? The UN at its founding proclaimed a movement for world peace, and for 60 years it has dedicated itself to that task. yet world peace still remains far distant. Peace among nations can never come when those entrusted with the task have not resolved the Cain-Abel relationship between their own minds and bodies. Therefore, the time has come to launch the Abel-type sovereignty for the peaceful, ideal world that will set its course according to God's will. God eagerly anticipated that someone would appear and resolve these tragedies, but no such person appeared on earth. God waited and waited, looking for anyone who would take on the role of the true parent. If someone had come forward, I am certain that God would have appeared in his dreams, carried forth the sun and the moon, and showered him with lightning of joy and thunder of ecstasy from the heavens. In this sense, it is a miracle of miracles that for the first time in history, a man has succeeded in attaining the position of Adam. He has secured the status of the owner of true love and received God's anointing as the true parent of humanity. It is an amazing fact that his lifetime coincides with yours, and that you and he breathe the same air. He is the horizontal true parent who comes to rescue fallen humanity. I, Reverend Moon, gained victory in that position, and on that foundation, on January 13th, 2001, I dedicated to heaven the coronation ceremony of God's kingship. By that ceremony, I liberated and released God, the vertical true parent, who has taken responsibility for the providence of restoration. In all of history, this was the highest and greatest blessing humanity has ever received. This victory was absolute, unique, unchanging, and eternal. Through this absolute providential victory, God's body and mind are completely liberated. Thank you. Respected leaders, our bondage to the lineage of Satan has caused so much suffering throughout history. Let us now boldly step forth to sever it and be grafted onto the root of the lineage of the true parents. Why should we foolishly continue to live and die as wild olive trees? A wild olive tree, even if it lives 1,000 years, will only continue producing the seeds of more wild olive trees. Where can we find the path to escape this vicious cycle? It is through the holy blessing. The holy blessing ceremony offers the grace of being grafted onto the true olive tree. It was instituted by the true parents who brings God's true lineage to humankind. Once you change your lineage to God's lineage, your offspring will belong to God's lineage naturally. The holy blessing is received in 3 stages: rebirth, resurrection, and eternal life. Once you receive the true parent's holy blessing, you can give birth to pure and sinless offspring and build an ideal family. The best way to receive the holy blessing is with someone from another race, nationality, or religion. I call this an exchange marriage. This contributes to the enormous task of transcending the barriers of race, culture, nationality, ethnicity, and religion, and creating one family of humankind. In God's sight, skin color makes no difference. God does not recognize national borders. God does not stand behind the barriers of religion and culture. They are nothing more than the devil's tricks. He has used them to rule over humanity as a false parent for tens of thousands of years. Imagine 2 families who hate each other and cursed each other throughout their lives. People who would never, ever dream of living together. What would happen if these families joined together through an exchange holy marriage blessing? A son from one family and a daughter from another family become husband and wife, love each other, and build a happy home. Would the parents in each family curse their own children? When their son loves this beautiful daughter of a hated enemy, and she, as their daughter-in-law, gives birth to heaven's grandchildren as pure and clear as crystal, the grandparents will naturally smile with pleasure. In time, the 2 lineages that were once soaked with enmity will be transformed. What method other than exchange marriage will empower whites and blacks, Jews and Muslims, Orientals and Westerners, and people of all races to live as one human family? The ideal family is a model for living together in peace. The ideal family is a nest where we live and learn to become one. There we have the foundation of love and respect between parents and children, shared trust and love between husband and wife, and mutual support among siblings. For this fundamental reason, you should receive the holy marriage blessing from the true parents and establish heaven's tradition of ideal families, even if it means risking your very lives. Thank you. Let me reiterate, to resemble God, the original being of true love, we should become the owners of true love. We should embody true love and practice it in order to develop our character. This is the way each of us can become true parents. What is a life of true love? True love is a spirit of public service. It brings the peace that is at the root of happiness. Selfish love, however, is a mask for the desire to have one's partner only exist for one's own sake. True love is free from that corruption. Rather, its essence is to give, to live for the sake of others, and for the sake of the whole. True love gives, forgets that it has given, and continues to give without ceasing. True love gives joyfully. We find it in the joyful and loving heart of a mother who cradles her baby in her arms and nurses it at her breasts. True love is a sacrificial love, as with a filial son who gains his greatest satisfaction in helping his parents. God created the universe out of just such a love, absolute, unique, unchanging, and eternal, investing everything without expectation or condition of receiving anything in return. True love is the wellspring of the universe. Once we possess it, true love makes us the centers and the owners of that universe. True love is the root of God and the symbol of His will and power. When we are bound together in true love, we can be together forever, continually increasing in the joy of each other's company. The attraction of true love brings all things in the universe to our feet. Even God will come to dwell with us. Nothing can compare to the value of true love. It has the power to dissipate the barriers fallen human beings created, including national boundaries and the barriers of race and even religion. The main attributes of true love are that it is absolute, unique, unchanging, and eternal. So whoever practices God's true love will live with God, share His happiness, and enjoy the right to participate as an equal in His work. Therefore, a life lived for the sake of others, a life of true love, is the absolute prerequisite for entering the kingdom of heaven on earth. Respected leaders, you are now living in the age when all marriages can receive God's blessings. God's promises are coming to fruition. The kingdom of heaven on earth, God's ideal of creation, is being established before your very eyes. I dedicated my life of more than 80 years solely for heaven. It has been a lonely path stained with blood, sweat, and tears. Now it is bearing victorious fruit for the sake of the world's 6 billion people. From the spirit world, the founders of the world's religions, tens of thousands of saints, and your very own good ancestors are watching your every move. Whoever therefore strays from the heavenly path will be punished accordingly. In more than 180 countries, ambassadors for peace who have inherited heaven's will and tradition are making serious effort, day and night, to proclaim the values of true love and true family. They are moving forward with full force to establish the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world on this earth. In the Middle East, one of the world's tinderboxes, Jews, Christians, and Muslims have found the resources in my philosophy of peace to engage in new dimensions of dialogue. In past decades, my unification thought played a decisive role in ending the Cold War. Now, I am successfully leading behind-the-scenes efforts to bring about the reunification of my homeland of Korea. But I am not yet satisfied, because I began my life's work at the command of heaven. I have come as a true parent of humankind with God's anointing, and I am determined to keep my promise to Him. I am determined to obliterate all national divisions and barriers that have poisoned this earth, and to establish the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world where all people everywhere can live hand in hand. That is my dream. Thank you. Respected ambassadors for peace, I believe you have learned many things through this message from God. You represent heaven. And as long as humanity continues to drift aimlessly, it needs your help. Please take this opportunity to make a new determination, to be heaven's envoys, prepared to uphold heaven's command. With this in mind, I would like to summarize today's message so that we can all take up heaven's mission and describe it deep within our hearts. What did I say we lost by the fall of Adam and Eve, who were created as God's children? First, we lost the realm of the lineage given to us by God. Lineage is the most special among all gifts parents bequeath unto their children. By the fall, Adam and Eve inherited the false lineage of Satan and descended to the status of his children. We must understand with certainty that all human beings today, without exception, are the descendants of the fall and have inherited the lineage of Satan. When God created Adam and Eve, he invested his entire being 100%. He created them based on the absolute standard of absolute love, absolute faith, and absolute obedience. He gave them his lineage as a seed for their love and life. Likewise, from this very moment, God is recreating you as new people. The path is open wide for you to change your lineage through the holy wine ceremony that the true parents have instituted. The blessing is yours, either as newlywed couples or as already married couples, that you may establish true families. Second, the fall caused the loss of the realm of sibling love, when in the family of Adam, the older brother Cain killed his younger brother Abel. God's original family structure was full of blessings, including love and harmony among siblings. The fall degraded the sibling relationship into a rivalry filled with envy and resentment. To restore this problem in the lineage, I am leading humanity worldwide to join in exchange marriages. These marriages restore the original family structure, when those who are able, relatively closer to heaven's side, take on the subject role and position of older brother. Ladies and gentlemen, because I spent my life discovering and disclosing these secrets of Satan, it was inevitable that I would face persecution. At times, the suffering was so intense as to be indescribable in words. Now, however, I am victorious over all obstacles. I can therefore declare the age after the coming of heaven, the age when the power of heaven itself becomes manifest. Thank you. On this foundation, I'm building a worldwide able realm that brings together religions and nations representing 70% of the current world population. To create a corresponding worldwide Cain realm, I'm bringing together all those born with the Mongolian birthmark, which includes some 74% of the world's population. Now these two, the worldwide able realm and the worldwide Cain realm, must become one and unite with the Universal Peace Federation, which has been initiated as the able sovereignty. To establish the kingdom of a peaceful, ideal world, we must transcend religious affiliation and nationality and remove all national boundaries and other barriers. I would like to reiterate that this is the only way humankind will be able to achieve the original ideal of creation. It is our destiny to fulfill this responsibility. By doing so, we will establish the original right of ownership lost by the fall of Adam and Eve. As you form this new able realm, please remember that now you are charged with digesting the Cain realm throughout heaven and earth. By doing so, you will create the conditions to establish a new heaven and new earth, the kingdom of God on earth in heaven and in heaven, with God's complete authority. Thank you. Leaders from around the world, let me take the opportunity provided by today's distinguished forum to reiterate the proposal I made for a truly providential and revolutionary project. For the sake of peace and human welfare, and for building God's fatherland and original hometown, I propose that we build a passage for transit across the Bering Strait, that remnant of Satan's historical division between East and West, and North and South, and where the North American and Russian landmasses are separated. This passage, which I call the World Peace King Bridge and Tunnel, will link an international superhighway system that will allow people to travel on land from Africa's Cape of Good Hope to Santiago, Chile, and from London to New York, across the Bering Strait, connecting the world as one single community. God is warning us that He will no longer tolerate separation and division. Carrying out this project will bind the world together as one village, literally. It will tear down the man-made walls of race, culture, religion, and country and establish a kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world that God has been God's cherished hope and desire. The United States and Russia can become as one. The European Union, China, India, Japan, Brazil, and all nations, as well as the world's religions, can combine their energies to succeed in this project. The success of this project will be decisive in establishing the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world where people will no longer make war with each other because they are neighbors. Ladies and gentlemen, some may doubt that such a project can be completed. But where there is a will, there is always a way, especially if it is the will of God. The science and technology of the 21st century render it possible to construct a tunnel under the Bering Strait. The construction costs are also not a problem. Think of how much money the world is wasting on war and conflict. Humanity needs to realize that we are committing fearful sins in the presence of history and our very own descendants. Let us take one example. How much money has the United States spent on the war in Iraq during the past 3 years? It is approaching $200 billion. That budget would be more than enough to complete the Bering Strait project. In this age, war is the most primitive and destructive means of resolving conflict and will never, ever lead to lasting peace. Now is the time, as the prophet Isaiah taught, to beat our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks. Humankind should end the perverse cycle of war, which only sacrifices our children's lives and squanders astronomical sums of money. The time has come for the countries of the world to pool their resources and advance toward the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world desired by God, the master of this great universe. Ladies and gentlemen, humanity is traveling down a dead-end street. The only way to survive is to practice my teaching, the peace philosophy of true love, true life, and true lineage. Now that we have entered the age after the coming of heaven, your good ancestors are activated and the heavenly hosts are sweeping down upon the earth. Soon the countries and peoples that appear strong and mighty will change course and shift in this new direction. I leave you with a choice. There can be no perfection in ignorance. The message from heaven that I convey to you today is both a blessing and a warning to this generation. I will take the lead in establishing true families, true societies, true nations, and a true kingdom of a peaceful, ideal world. Will you join me as I rise and gain strength in accordance to heavenly fortune? Or will you remain captive behind the same old walls, all of them Satan's handiwork? The wall of your religion, the wall of your culture, the wall of your nationality, and the wall of your race, and spend the remainder of your time on this good earth in agony and regret. Heaven is summoning you to be the wise leaders who will set aright this world of evil and establish a new heaven and a new earth, a new culture, and an ideal kingdom. Thank you. The Universal Peace Federation, which was born through the concerted efforts of those here, represents God's victory, the fruit of the true parent's blood, sweat, and tears, and the world's cherished hope. It will carry out the role of the able-type counterpart to the existing United Nations as a new sovereignty for the building of a realm of universal peace known as Chanil-il-Guk. Please bear in mind that you are given the heavenly mission to build God's substantial homeland, which is nothing less than the ideal which God intended at the time of creation. Think of the peacekeeping work of the United Nations. Sometimes it withdrew its forces before the mission was ever completed. The Korean War was one such example. For this reason, on October 20th in the Ukraine, during the world tour of 120 nations, inaugurating the Universal Peace Federation, I declared before the world the establishment of the Peace Kingdom Police Force and the Peace Kingdom Corps for the welfare and future of humanity. These two organizations will safeguard order and peace in the new world. Humanity is still ensnared in the traps of division and self-interest, which are the remnants of the age before the coming of heaven. These two organizations will be the vanguard for educating humanity in true love in the age after the coming of heaven. The purpose of this education will be to create true individuals, true families, true nations, true world, and a true universe. I hope that you will put on a new true love armor in this new age and be the wise and brave activists in the Universal Peace Kingdom Corps for the sake of humanity's future. Please inscribe this warning from heaven deep in your hearts. Remember that the only way to inherit heaven's lineage and establish the realm of liberation and complete release is through the holy marriage blessing instituted by the true parents. Furthermore, the holy marriage blessing provides a means to establish God's ideal family and the kingdom of a peaceful, ideal world. Thank you. I ask you to devote your best efforts, as the true parents have, for the development and success of the Universal Peace Federation and toward creating God's ideal family, ideal nation, and the peace kingdom. Please become the true princes and princesses who can attend and live together with God, the eternal peace king and true parent of all humanity. Let us live up to the standard of a true filial child, patriot, saint, and member of the family of God, and create the eternal kingdom of a peaceful, ideal world. May God's blessings be with you, your families, and your nations. Thank you very much.
Dr. Hak Jahan Moon to present the keynote address, God's Model, Ideal Family and Nation, and the Peace Kingdom.
Thank you. Please be seated. Distinguished world leaders, ambassadors for peace, and blessed family members who have come from all parts of the world in hopes of bringing about the realization of world peace and building the ideal hometown in heaven and on earth. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to all of you for coming together in the midst of your busy schedules to take part in this rally to expand and elevate the family party for cosmic peace and unification to a global level so that it may be reborn as the Chanil-Guk, House for Peace and Unification. To make the Universal Peace Federation a model UN-type organization and to make Chanil-Guk the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world through the concerted efforts of all the nations of the world. As you may know, this year marks the 87th year since my husband, Reverend Moon's birth. On this remarkable occasion, as a co-founder of the Universal Peace Federation, which is to open wide the era after the coming of heaven, I would like to convey to you the essence of the truth of heaven that my husband and I have taught throughout our lives. This message is entitled God's Model, Ideal Family and Nation, and the Peace Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, on looking back, Reverend Moon's life has indeed been like a dream. At the young age of 16, with nothing but the buoyant spirit and aspirations of youth, he was called by heaven and began to live for the will of God. This left no room in his heart for any worldly ambitions he may have cherished. It has never been an easy path, but he has followed it for more than 80 years, looking nowhere but straight ahead. This was the life he was fated to lead, with no choice but to shake off the embrace of his beloved parents and brothers and sisters, who clung to him, wanting him to stay with them. They endured great self-sacrifice and walked a stony path of dreadful suffering for his sake. It has been a journey through the wilderness that no one among the 6.5 billion people living on earth could ever comprehend. Even when he persevered through the hardships of prison life 6 times, he never let go of the key to the providence, such as been Reverend Moon's life. This was all because Reverend Moon came to know only too well how anguished, aggrieved, and full of bitter sorrow was the heart of God as he waited for thousands of years to find us. He realized that if God, who is the origin of billions of people and the creator of everything in the universe, was not relieved from his sorrow, human life would remain completely without value. When, where, and how did God come to carry such agonizing sorrow in his heart? Who on earth could inflict this grief upon him, the absolute and omnipotent being? God created Adam and Eve and established them as the first ancestors of humankind. He committed himself 100% to raising them as his son and daughter, connected to him through love, life, and lineage. For the parent-child relationship is the highest and most important of all relationships. And the linear relationship between parent and child is the only way through which his lineage can be bequeathed and made to last forever. However, this parent-child relationship, more precious and important than life itself, was severed through the fall of Adam and Eve, as God's own flesh and blood, and as his eternal, only begotten son and daughter. Adam and Eve formed a blood relationship with his enemy Satan and became Satan's children instead. And became, in the face of this, God's heart has been crushed and wounded with grief and sorrow throughout history. This still remains the most mortifying and harrowing anguish which no one before in history could know or resolve. In this way, God's idea of creation to establish a true family in that first generation through Adam and Eve, a family through which he could eternally pass on his lineage, was frustrated. The only way to relieve his sorrow is to restore and establish a true family unrelated to the lineage of Satan. Herein lies the reason why all of us need to establish true families, which is God's idea of creation. Herein also lies the fundamental object and purpose of the founding of the Universal Peace Federation. Genesis 1:27 of the Old Testament tells us, "So God created man in his own image, male and female. He created them." From observing God's creation as expressed in this passage, we can conclude that God is a being who comprises the essence of one man and one woman. Having these attributes, God could not enjoy a solitary life. Therefore, he created the universe as his object partner. That is, he created all things in the universe in the position of an object partner in image. And in the midst of this environment, he created human beings as his object partners in substance. In this manner, the first masculine representative created by God as his object partner in substance was Adam. And the feminine representative he created was Eve. God had an objective in mind when he created human beings as separate beings, one man and one woman. First, God, who exists as an incorporeal being, though he is the subject being with dual characteristics in harmony, needed to assume a physical form through which he could relate with the entire world of substance, and not only the body of the man or that of the woman. Embodied within both Adam and Eve, he intended to communicate and work freely in relation to the entire universe, the world of substance. This is because the incorporeal God without a physical body meets certain limits in dealing with the corporeal world of substance. Therefore, if Adam and Eve had attended God in their hearts and become one with him, then married on the basis of having perfected themselves, had children, and created a family, they would have become the external and horizontal true parents in substance, while God would have been the internal and vertical true parent in substance. If only this had come to pass, Adam and Eve would have resembled God 100%, both in their inner nature and outer form. If Adam and Eve, as a perfect resemblance of God, had become the true parents of humankind, human beings in their daily lives would have perceived, through their experience of them, the true reality of God. Second, God created Adam and Eve for the fulfillment of love. He intended for Adam and Eve to reach perfection and become the embodiments of love in complete union. On that basis, he would have come and dwell with them and become the parent of true love for all humanity. Adam and Eve, standing in the position of the parents of substance in the image of God, would have established an ideal family and consequently an ideal world through having their own children and multiplying. If this had come to be, the spirit world and the earthly world would have been linked through human beings. We can conclude that God created us with the purpose of being the connecting point between the spiritual and physical worlds. By coming to dwell in Adam and Eve based on true love, God could remain as the true parent, the parent in substance of humankind. Moreover, when the time came for them to end their lives on earth and pass on into the spirit world, even in that world, he could take on the spirit bodies of Adam and Eve and manifest it as the true parent through their form. However, due to the fall of Adam and Eve, God has not seen that ideal fulfilled. God does not need money, knowledge, or power. Since he is the absolute almighty being, he does not need such things. Though modern science may be accomplishing spectacular advances, these are all part of the process of discovering new facts and truths within the realm of God's creation. The best expanse of this universe operates in accordance with the laws following an order that cannot be fathomed by human thought or science. In this sense, God is also the absolute scientist. then what would have been the ideal that God hoped to achieve through the creation of humankind? It was to fulfill the four-position foundation. The four-position foundation signifies Adam and Eve in a state of complete union with God. This makes it impossible for them to separate from God's realm of love, no matter how hard they may try. In other words, it refers to the foundation of a family with God as its center, established when the husband and wife have achieved complete oneness, not only with each other, but also with God, and when they have become an ideal couple and given birth to ideal children. When the family four-position foundation is thus completed, that family becomes a family of the ideal of creation desired by God. Generally speaking, a family is formed through the coming together of husband and wife and of parents and children. At the center of that family group, there must be God's love. At this point, the husband represents heaven and the wife earth. Although they are two separate beings, when husband and wife have become one, horizontally speaking, their union symbolizes the unity of heaven and earth. Simply put, when husband and wife are in unity based on God's love, the way to bring unity in the universe opens up. Ladies and gentlemen, God created the world to receive joy from it. Since even the absolute being, God could not feel joy while alone. He needed a partner with whom he could share the giving and receiving of love. This is because joy cannot be learned all by oneself, but can only be experienced through a partner. To put it in another way, God created this world in order to feel joy from seeing humankind and all things of the creation become one through his love, forming a harmonious and peaceful world of love. On such a basis, human beings were meant to form through conjugal relationships, centering upon his love, and to establish families, tribes, peoples, nations, and a world of true love. God created this world to participate directly in this process and to feel joy from it. We can see that human beings are absolutely essential to fulfill God's ideal of love. And in light of this, we can better understand the concept that absolute value is derived from an absolute partner. God, as the Father, and humankind, as his children, were to form a vertical axis. And this was the purpose for the creation of human beings. If this axis had been connected perfectly, that is, if a relationship that united humankind and God as one through true love had been established, that relationship would have been an absolutely inseparable one, which no force in the universe could break apart. How could anyone who has been bound to the original love of God and who has tasted that love ever be separated from it? With the coming of spring, honeybees wake up from their long slumber and get a taste for the fresh nectar of the blooming flowers. Try pulling the abdomen of one such honeybee while it is lost to all else but sucking on the nectar. You will see that it cannot tear itself from the nectar, even if its abdomen is pulled off. How about you? Once you really get to know the taste of God's true love, you want to get far from it before you come back and cling to it once again. This shows that the power of the vertical true love that connects us to Him is greater than the power of life. Ladies and gentlemen, The reason we miss the family we have left behind is because at home there is love for one another. It is where the love of a mother and father, the love of elder brothers and sisters and younger siblings, and the love of one's spouse and children and close neighbors are all deeply embedded. It is a place of mutual affection, where all the relationships and affinities are brought together through mutual love. This makes you want to cherish each and every member of your family. It is the yearning and desire of any wanderer who has left his family behind to reappear before his family once again boldly. As a liberated being, and to embrace mountains, streams, and trees, love his kin and sing songs of ecstasy. However, the situation of humankind descended from the fall has been different, vanished from their original heavenly hometown, and destined to wander around in isolation and defeat human beings are unable ever to go back. No matter how much they miss their family, for they have lost the root of the heart of their original homeland. However, with the ushering in of the era of a new heaven and new earth, human beings have been pulled out of the swamp that was sucking them down, and the way has been opened for them to return to their hometowns. Hometowns that they could not forget even for a moment and mix with their true family. Could there ever be a day of great blessing for humanity? The time of heavenly power and fortune has now come, making it possible for us to re-establish the original family that was lost through the fall of Adam and Eve. When seeking after the lost original family, you should set out from the position of the perfected Adam, the position of the perfected Jesus, and the position representing the perfected second coming of the Lord. God will dwell in such a family. That family would be one of three generations: grandparents, parents, and children living in harmony. Parents and children live in service and attendance to the grandparents as the historical root of the ancestors. The family set a pattern for living together in harmony. The family wherein parents and children love and respect each other. Husband and wife are grounded in mutual trust and love, and brothers and sisters trust and rely on each other, and all live together as one, is the model ideal family. This means that you need to establish a true family wherein the stem of true love emerges from the root of true love and bears the fruit of true love. In such a family, the root of history is alive, and the root of the kingdom of heaven extends into it. It is in such a family that the kingdom of heaven and earth takes root. It is also where the everlasting root of kingship is firmly planted. The roots of the past, present, and future are represented by the grandparents, parents, and grandchildren, respectively. The root of the past represents the spirit world. The root of the present is the palace representing the world today. And the root of the future establishes the grandsons and granddaughters as princes and princesses. Through such a family, we erect the palace of peace, representing the harmony of the two worlds, the spirit world and the physical world. In this manner, these three generations of grandparents, parents, and grandchildren should live together as one family, serving the eternally existent God. You should know that to seek after and establish such a family of Cheonil-gu, God's kingdom, is the responsibility of tribal messiahs, the mission of the ambassadors for peace, and the desire of God. You should form families that God will miss and yearn to return to after He has been away. You should raise families to which he can come freely as a parent visiting his children. This is what it means to live in service to God. To such a family, God becomes the subject of our conscience acting vertically. Following that vertical subject, your mind stands in the position of the vertical subject of yourself and brings your mind and body into unity. That is where parental love, conjugal love, children's love, and siblings love, in short, the four realms of love or the four realms of heart are perfected. Only in such a family can the upper and lower, front and behind, left and right be connected as one and circular motion continue. This leads to God's everlasting model ideal families and nations and His peace kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, why should we get married? It is to restore the position of an honor. A man or a woman alone can only be one half of the whole. That is how God created us. For that reason, He has interchanged the honors of the reproductive organs, the love organs. The owner of the wife's reproductive organ is the husband, and the owner of the husband is the wife. Only when each is rooted in love for the other can they stand in the position of the owner of their spouse. We marry to secure this position of the owner. Then, what are we trying to achieve by restoring the position of the owner? It is to fulfill and embody God's love from that position. God is the subject of the three great loves as the owner of the universe. He is the teacher, owner, and parent of true love. This is the genuine three great subject system. All such things and truths are created based on the life of true model families, and once they expand, the society, nation, world, and even heaven and earth can be transformed into the peace kingdom of the model ideal family. Distinguished leaders, you are now living in the most blessed and exalted time in history. I now proclaim the launch of the era of a new heaven and earth, an era after the coming of heaven, long awaited and yearned for by billions of your ancestors in the spirit world, who have come and gone in history. This is the era of the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world. Not only the four great religious founders, but also billions of good ancestors have come down to us at this point to guide you on the heavenly path. The age in which the fallen and corrupted world plays havoc on humanity, allowing those who are evil to live better than others, is passing away. Reverend Moon, who received the seal of heaven, has come as the true parent of humanity and the King of peace. He will be true to his promise to heaven. He will bring to fruition the era of the kingdom of the peaceful ideal world on this earth without fail. Therefore, please bear in mind that all of you gathered here today are the central figures in establishing the kingdom of the peaceful, ideal world on this earth in attendance to the King and Queen of peace, the true parents. Under the banner of the able-type UN, let us sweep away the absurdities and the evil of this world through true love power. Let us become the proud Peace Kingdom Police and Peace Kingdom Corps of the Universal Peace Federation and protect the blessed families of the world. Let us fulfill our roles as the sentinels watching over this blessed land that is our planet. I pray that the blessings and grace of God may be with all of your leaders representing different areas of responsibility, whose presence has elevated this historic occasion. I ask you to devote your best efforts as true parents have toward the development and success of the Universal Peace Federation and toward creating God's ideal family, ideal nation, and the peace kingdom. Please become true princes and princesses who can attend and live together with God, the eternal peace king, as the true parents of humanity. Let us each live up to the standard of a true filial child, a patriot, a saint, and a member of the family of divine sons and daughters of God, in order to create the peace kingdom for all eternity. May God's blessings be with you, your family, your nations. Thank you very much.
Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon presenting God's ideal family and nation and the peace kingdom. And now a special flower presentation to True Mother and to True Father, who's observing from Korea. One more round of applause from Tajikistan, this historic day on the 180 nation tour. True Mother, Dr. Hak Ja Han Moon. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. We're at the final climax of our program. The first part of the holy blessing is the holy water ceremony, symbolizing a cleansing, purification, and new life. Just as the rain brings new life, this water symbolizes the water of new life. I hope it also makes you cooler. The second part of this is where we truly reflect on our own selves and make our new determination. This is the affirmation of the blessing vows, which will now be read.
Blessing vows. 1.
Do you pledge to realize a pure, true family, centering on God's ideal of creation in order to perfect the parent-child relationship with God, true parents, and your own families?
Yes! 2.
Do you pledge to restore through indemnity the failures of the three-generational realm of Adam's family in order to become citizens of Chaniluguk, who complete the kingdom of heaven in the physical and spiritual worlds?
Yes! 3.
Do you pledge to inherit true parents' tradition through realizing the three-subject thought system as true parents, true teachers, and true owners, and to live for the sake of others, through giving true love in order to bring about the settlement of a kingdom that will not have national boundaries, which is the peace kingdom, that will be centered upon the peace king?
Yes!
This concludes the affirmation of vows.
이날은
Now our true mother will
Maybe
present the prayer of blessing.
couples face each other. Couples face each other.
Please, the couples on the stage and any in the audience, please turn and hold hands together.
이날은 타지키스탄에서 300여 명의 무리가 천일국 6년 6월 19일 참 사랑과 참 생명과 참 혈통의 주인이신 하나님 아버지를 모시고 천지인 참 부모님의 수고의 승리적 터전 위에 여기에 이 무리들이 당신의 뜻을 따라 참 혈통으로 거듭나 위하는 참 사랑 실천을 통하여 이 나라와 주변의 모든 나라를 하늘의 형제 자매로 묶을 수 있는 용기 있는 이 나라의 축복 가정들로서 기억할 수 있는 날이 되게 축복하여 주시옵소서. 이 모든 식전을 아버지 앞에 맡기었고 모든 말씀 참 부모님의 이름으로 축원하나이다. 아멘. 아멘. 아멘.
And now, to conclude the blessing ceremony, the declaration of blessings will be read.
Blessing Declaration.
I hereby declare on this 19th day of June in the 6th year of Chonilguk before God, true parents in heaven and earth, that the families who are attending the Universal Peace Federation 180 Nation World Tour Rally for the Restoration of the Homeland, over which the true parents are presiding, have received the blessing. Congratulations.
And now, we will ask for a final photo, including the couples, that they'll come forward. 2 chairs are brought forward. I'd ask the national advisors here to come forward and also join this commemorative photo centering around True Mother and Dr. Hyunjin Moon for the commemorative photo. To close out this incredible day, we should close it with an expression of joy. So we're now going to have a special cheer. This is traditional after a holy blessing ceremony, traditional within Korea. So the director of our youth federation here in Tajikistan will lead us in 3 cheers, and we'll throw our arms up and say Manse, which means blessings for 10,000 years. Manse! 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 Thank you. Let's once again send off our True Mother and Dr. Hyunjin Moon for an incredible day here in Tajikistan.